Welcome to Mom Matters. I'm your host, Alyssa Dver, and in the next 10 easy-to-watch minutes, we're going to give you some really practical tips for more productive parenting. Today's topic is Inside No Child Left Behind. Very controversial issue, and we're very, very blessed to have with us a true expert on the subject. Principal Welch is here with me. He is the principal for Woodrow Wilson Elementary School in Framingham, Mass. And as you can see, we're on site today. This is our first show on site, so we're very excited for that too. Robin Welch is a very well-respected and highly acclaimed principal nationally. In fact, in 2005, he was the recipient of the National Association of Elementary School Principals, and he won the National Distinguished Principal Award. I should get an award just for saying that.
That's right. That was good work on your part.
And also in 2005, you won the Massachusetts Elementary School Principals Association Thomas C. Passius Award. And I know you've won many more, but we take the whole show to do that. So suffice it to say, we are just grateful you're here.
Well, thank you.
Let's just start with a basic introduction. What is No Child Left Behind, and what was the original intent?
No Child Left Behind was the desire of the federal government many years back during President Bush's first administration to try to set a standard of expectation for all students in the United States to be at a level of proficient or advanced at the year 2014.
2014.
Yes.
Okay, so how does it actually work? What happens in the classroom and at the school?
Well, there's a lot of things about it that work and a lot of things about it that don't work, from my opinion. Technically, each state, their Department of Education was charged with figuring out a program or a way in which they would hold all students and teachers and the general school populace accountable to ensure that students had a level of mastery of basic facts by the time they graduated in 2014. To make that happen, there were a number of tests that were placed at different grade levels. The primary grades initially were 4, 8, and 10. Now we find that there are other tests that are being administered. But it was up to each Department of Education to determine what the standard would be, to determine what the cutoff would be, to determine what each of the benchmarks for the qualificators, meaning advanced, proficient, needing improvement. So there was all set to each individual state to do. The problem is that there was no consistency. And so now we find that many states are in many different places, as well as what we consider in Massachusetts to be proficient might not be the same that Illinois would consider, or that Chicago, or that Washington State would consider. Okay. So it's inconsistent. All
right. So in addition to the tests, though, what are the implications? What happens, for example, if a student or the school doesn't test at a proficient level?
A couple of things happen. They will give all the students a test with an expectation of performance. If the students do not perform, then the individual students get reports in regards to how they performed. And it's normally compared to their colleagues in the building, their colleagues in the state. Okay. So that way the child has 2 reference points, or the parent has 2 reference points in terms of what the child did or did not do. For schools, that data is to help us in terms of making a better decision regarding how best to help this child if we see that there's a deficit of some sort, and how to go forward in terms of creating a new program to help this child learn better. Okay,
good. I think that's a great background, and as you said, we want to talk a little bit about the good side and the bad side of it. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get right back into it with Principal Robin Welch.
Get a jump on what your preschool kids need to know with Let's Get Ready for Kindergarten from Stacy Kannenberg. A mom told me this is the book I've been looking for. This book gives me all the information I need about what my kids need to know. And a private school admissions director said this is exactly what we test on. Google it, get it, and get ahead. Let's Get Ready for Kindergarten. Applauded and approved by parents and educators. Let's Get Ready for Kindergarten is a state-approved teaching tool. On sale now. In stores or online at cedarvalleypublishing.com.
We're here talking with Principal Robin Welch. I'm one of his biggest fans here about No Child Left Behind. And one of the reasons I'm your fan is I know you work in a very challenging environment yourself. Maybe just give our viewers a little bit of idea of the kind of school that you run here.
This school is very different than all other schools in Framingham. Actually, more different than most schools, I would say. We are an urban school in a suburban setting. Basically, that means in this particular school, I have 85% of my students who are ELL, which are English as a second language learners. And 15% of my students are actually students who were born with English as the first language in their household. On top of that, we have a large population, approximately 75% of our students receive free and reduced lunch vouchers as well. So wow. It's a very demanding and diverse and challenging school population.
Which is one of the reasons we came to you as one of the experts on this, really the inside story. So from your perspective, what's working, what's not?
Well, I believe in the merits of what the No Child Left Behind statute is about. And that's basically to try to make sure that everybody's held accountable for the success of our students. And as educators, that's exactly what we want. We want our students to show mastery, to be proficient, to show that they're learning what they're being taught. But some of the problems with that is that in a school like mine, where the test is given in English, but so many of the students don't speak English as their first language, they're being tested anyway. And obviously, it would be safe to assume that the vast majority of the students will not do well. There is a break of 1 year that they give to new arrivals to kind of have some sense to learn English. Anybody who knows anything about language acquisition knows that you cannot learn a language in 1 year.
I couldn't.
So with that being said, in my school, I find that my school does not perform well from an MCAS, No Child Left Behind perspective, because our students don't understand English well enough to actually take the test. There are other tests that they take, the MELO, the MIPA tests that are more geared towards second language learners, and we do fine with that. But the Department of Education is using just the MCAS test as the barometer in terms of determining whether a school is proficient, or whether a school is actually working well or not. Now the problem is that you'll have a couple of years to do this. They have what they call AYP, which is adequate yearly progress. And it's an arbitrary number that gets determined by the DOE based on based on how much the Department of Education expects you to grow during the course of a year. So if your school does not make AYP, then you go on a short list of schools that they identify as need improvement. And the situation is, if the DOE says that my school needs to make 10 points AYP this year to make my rating to be okay, and we only make 5 points, the following year I've got those 5 points plus the additional 10 points. So now I'm 15 points behind. And when you get to a point where you get so far behind, especially with a very, very diverse population that's language diverse, it almost becomes impossible to catch up. So myself, like other schools, are on this group, this listing called Schools Needs of Improvement. You have 3 years to be a school needs of improvement. If by some chance you do not, then your school goes under corrective action.
So real implications for not meeting the standards and getting there sooner than later. Wow.
Yeah, very, very serious implications. Wow. There have been people, principals who have lost their jobs. There have been schools that have closed.
Wow. Okay. Well, certainly we could talk about this for a lot longer, and I wish we had more time, but you've given us a great background, and I want to thank you so much for being here, making the time to see us. In this election year coming up, I'm sure this is going to be a continued controversial issue, and we'll see how things change. We'll just have to stay tuned for that. So I want to thank our viewers for joining us, remind them all about our website, which is www.mom-matters.com. You'll find our previous shows all archived there, as well as information on future shows. This is Alyssa Dver for Mom Matters, giving you practical tips for more productive parenting.